Hello, everybody, and welcome into the midweek edition of the Batter Up podcast here on the Sports Insanity Network, sponsored by Halpern's Cards and Collectibles. I am Mike Rifkin. Trade deadline's come and gone. We did do a video live stream post trade deadline that could be found on the YouTube page of the Sports Insanity Network. But this is post trade deadline. We're going to go through some news and talk a little Steve Cohen as well, because he spoke to the media yesterday for the first time since the trade deadline. So we'll go through that, as well as preview some of the big weekend series in Major League Baseball. But we'll start with a little bit of down news, sad news. Yankees pitcher Domingo Germán was put on the restricted list, and the reason being is he is going to get treatment for alcohol issues. So I'm not necessarily sure if that means, I'm guessing rehab is where he's going. First and foremost, you want the player to get better. That is the most important thing here. I believe Brian Cashman said there was a small incident a couple of days ago because of this. I wonder if that's why they didn't have him start the other night. Instead, they brought him out of the bullpen, down 5 runs or something like that against Tampa Bay. That's the thing. First and foremost, you want the person to get better. That's the most important thing here. But from a Yankee perspective, this digs a little deep for the Yankees, and should a little bit, because here's the thing. A couple of years ago, Domingo Germán was suspended by MLB for domestic violence issues. Earlier this year, he got suspended 10 games for sticky substance on his hands. And this feels kind of like a third strike, so to say. Now, first off, you want the player to get better, and that's important here. Also, it's important because if you're the New York Yankees and you still think there is a shot at the playoffs, which, the game's out, what's going on. You need Domingo Germán. You need him in the role, because Luis Severino has not been good. Nestor Cortez looks like he's coming back, but again, he's come back off of an injury. Carlos Rodon has not been good, and their only reliable pitcher has been Garrett Cole. I'm not saying Germán's been reliable at all, but he did throw a perfect game earlier this year, and he has games where he could be really good. Think of the start against the Cubs before the All-Star week. But from a non-baseball perspective, it's you want the player to get better. That is the most important thing. Addiction is a tough thing, whether it's alcohol, cigarettes, whatever it may be. There are all different kinds of addiction out there, and you want the person to beat that addiction. So, Domingo Germán, hope you get better. And you get the help you need and you want. So that's the non-baseball perspective. The baseball perspective is now the Yankees are down a pitcher. Maybe that's part of the reason they went out and got Kenyon Middleton from the White Sox at the deadline. Maybe that's not. But this is a team. I just said you're on the preface. I don't want to say you're on the preface of the playoffs, because you're on the outside looking in. And when I say you're on the outside looking in, they're 3.5 out, I believe. So let me just double check that. They're 3.5 out, tied with the Mariners, half game in front of the Angels. but 3.5 behind Toronto for that last wild card spot. And listen, the Yankees haven't played great. They haven't. But this comes as in an inopportune time. And if the Yankees had known about this sooner or something, maybe they play the trade deadline differently. I don't know. But again, first and foremost, you want the player to get better. That's the most important thing. But now, if you want to dive into the Yankees as a whole, they're going to get Nestor Cortez back. They're going to get Jonathan Loáisiga back. That's great. But they don't hit. And that's what the Yankees need. They need offense. They put up a 7 spot last night against the Rays, but they still lost 2 of 3. Now you got the Astros coming to town. More on them in a little bit. But, what else is coming up? Then they got 3 with the White Sox, 3 with the Marlins, 3 with the Braves before the Red Sox come to town. And then they play the Nationals before they go to Tampa Bay and Detroit, ending the month of August. And then to start September, they go to Houston. So it's not an easy road here for the New York Yankees. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are they'll find their way. I'm not sure. I'm not sure because of how they played the trade deadline. And I think Jim Duquette said this Wednesday night on SNY. You either buy because you believe or you sell because you don't believe. You can't play it down the middle. And that's the thing, because you look at impending free agents that the Yankees have, Harrison Bader, guys, bullpen. You could have gotten pieces back in deals for those kinds of players. But if you firmly believe, hey, we're going to re-sign Harrison Bader or we're going to bring back these guys in the bullpen, okay, cool, do it. But I think there's a challenge out there. And I think the next 2 months are big in New York as a whole. But I'll get to the Mets in a little bit. But for the Yankees as well, because I think the Yankee fan is a little bit more frustrated than the Met fan. Because the Mets showed you at the trade deadline, there's a direction. The Yankees are starting the car, but the car's stalled. And it's an old car. It's an old car. It's not a shiny new toy. It's an old car. Guys like Rizzo, guys like LeMahieu, guys like Stanton. By the way, Rizzo's got 1 year and an option left. LeMahieu's got three years left. Rizzo's got Stanton's got 4 years left somehow. Because you took on all of his money in years to help your friend Derek Jeter. Then I don't know who's playing left field. You should see if David Justice could play left field. Let's be real honest on it. They have a problem here, and it actually stems from the top because Hal Steinbrenner has not. I don't want to say has not been like his dad, because I don't think that's fair. I don't think Hal Steinbrenner understands the damage he's done. Because Brian Cashman, Brian Cashman's going to go to the Hall of Fame as a GM. He's a legend. There comes a point in time where an organization and an individual need to just part ways. Arguments say go to football for a minute. Tom Brady didn't play his whole career for the New England Patriots. Peyton Manning didn't play his whole career for the Indianapolis Colts. There's loyalty, and then there's loyalty to a fault. The New York Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009. The New York Yankees have not been to a World Series since 2009. And if someone comments on this video, or someone comments on this talking about the 2017 Astros, not going to be happy about it. Because guess what? It's 6 years later. That's why. They went into your house last year and swept you. That's what they did. So the Yankees have to figure this out because they're staying power in the AL East now. The Orioles are here. The Blue Jays are here. The Rays are here. The Red Sox are ahead of you. Not just in the standings, but you can make the argument, say the Red Sox roster is better than the Yankee roster because of the young talent the Red Sox have. Duran, Verdugo, Tristan Casas, who was just named AL Rookie of the Month. How do the Yankees counteract that? With one young guy in the lineup at Volpe. So the Yankees have to figure out who they are really this winter. Because you've already committed the 9 years to Aaron Judge. Arson Judge was really jealous of that contract. But you committed to Aaron Judge. You have these other guys you've committed to. And it just looks like there's something's not there. So I do believe if the Yankees miss the playoffs, one of Cashman or Boone is gone. Which one? I don't know. I would argue for both. But that's me. Personally. But we'll have to wait and see on that. The other side of town, there's the Mets. And there's a conversation that needs to be had. Steve Cohen spoke to the media yesterday for the first time since the trade deadline. And essentially what Steve Cohen said, kind of reiterate what Billy Epler said. Talking about not punting on 2024, but the expectations may be lower than they were this year. And look, I totally understand. Here's the quote. That this is from SNY's Twitter account. The expectations were, I'm quoting here, the expectations were really high this year. My guess is next year will be a lot lower. I don't want to roll a team out there we're going to be embarrassed by, close quote. There's a part of me, and Billy Epler basically said, listen, the expectations are going to be, that's fine. I expect the expectations to be lower next year because this was a team that won 100 games, 101 games last year. And that personally, they did need to change parts of this team coming through the last winter. They needed another bat. I think everyone who's a Mets fan knows they needed a bat to go with Lindor and Alonso. A middle-of-the-order impact bat. No one expected the down year from Jeff McNeil. No one expected the down year Starling Marte's had. Nemo's had a really nice year, Brandon Nemo. He's had a really nice year. But let's keep going through this here for a second. You figured out a couple of things. You figured out catcher because Francisco Alvarez, National League Rookie of the Month for July. Stud. And his defense is better than what everyone portrayed it to be. So that's a check mark that you figured out. You don't have to look at catcher. Brett Beatty's going to make mistakes, but the upside's there. Check mark. If you want to add a veteran guy who could probably play a little bit of everywhere. I'm not opposed to that in the offseason. Also, you still have Luis Guillermo, so that's fine. The outfield's going to need some help. Nemo's in center. Marte could be in right. They could move him in the winter. We can get into that in a little bit. Left field to be determined. Then you go into the pitching staff. Kodai Senga's a lock. He's the lock for next year. David Peterson, Tyler Miguel. The next 2 months are auditions for those two guys. It's an audition for them to be in the rotation for 2024. Jose Quintana, if there's not interest in a trade, you could keep him as a back end guy, a back end of the rotation guy. So that right there, at least 2/5 of your rotation, probably 3, depending on what Peterson or McGill show you. Then you go into free agency and trade pieces. I'm going to put Ohtani to the side for a second, and we'll get back to it. You're looking at guys. This is a list from MLB.com. Free agents over the next couple of years that you could look at. I'm going to mainly look here at the starting pitchers. Again, I'm putting Ohtani off to the side. Clayton Kershaw's either pitcher for the Dodgers or retired. Aaron Nola is an intriguing name. I just don't what that number looks like, but the name intrigues me. Blake Snell, as great as he's pitched recently, I'm a little concerned I wouldn't do it. The consistency just hasn't been there his whole career, especially with the walks. And you already got a guy with Senga who can walk batters. So I'm not going there. Julio Arias, that's an interesting name to me. If I can pair Arias and Senga, I kind of like it. Let's keep going. Eduardo Rodriguez, who just declined to trade to the Dodgers, has an opt-out. Has up and down, not the guy. Lucas Giolito is a name that intrigues me. And I know he's had down years with the White Sox and the change of scenery with the Angels, but I think he is a guy who still has a chance. And look, you're not going to pay him to be an ace, but that would be a guy I would take a flyer on Giolito. Sonny Gray, he can't pitch here after what he did with the Yankees. I would say no. Marcus Stroman has an opt-out. That's not happening. It's just not. Jordan Montgomery, again, he could pitch here because he pitched well for the Yankees. Another lefty, maybe that helps you just establish Peterson into the bullpen. That's something you could totally think about. Jack Flaherty, I need to see what his year with the Orioles looks like. Lance Lynn's got a club option if the Dodgers don't want to pick it up. That's a name that I really like. No, the high ERA, but he's going to throw. You know what he's going to do? Kenta Maeda, Charlie Morton's got a club option. He's probably close to retirement anyway. Alex Cobb has a club option. Kyle Hendricks has a club option. If Kyle Hendricks becomes available, that could be an interesting guy. Doesn't throw particularly hard, relies a lot on location. That's got something there for me. Seth Lugo, we know what that is. Rich Hill, Corey Kluber knows. Hyun-Jin Ryu off of Tommy John surgery. Maybe that's a flyer guy. Severino, no. He might need a change of scenery, but I think that's more of out of New York than anything else. Zach Greinke, Johnny Cueto. No, that's not going to help you. Carlos Carrasco. No, I don't need to see that again. Mike Clevenger's got an option. Herman Marquez has a club option. That's a name that intrigues me. I know, again, coming off of Tommy John, but he's been a good pitcher for the Rockies. So that could be a name that's, you know what? What's to stop you from giving him 2 years and 16 million bucks, something like that? I wouldn't be opposed to Herman Marquez if the Rockies declined the option. Noah Syndergaard's not happening. Wade Miley, no interest. Michael Wacha, no interest. And Alex Wood doesn't intrigue me. Some of these other names just Frankie Montas, no. Sean Manae's had a bad year for the Giants. Tyler Mahle for the Twins doesn't really help me. We're talking about competing, and listen, I know I said mainly the big names here that I really like. Marquez, Kyle Hendricks intrigues me. Jordan Montgomery intrigues me. Leonard Giolito, they both intrigue me as well. You could also go the trade route. The Mets, you're building up a farm system, and I get that, but there's not a spot for everyone on this team. So that's another conversation. Like, hey, we got a lot of up the middle prospects, shortstop, second baseman. Maybe we could package one or two. Hey, Chicago, we know you were listening on Dylan Cease at the deadline. Are you listening about him here? That's a name that would say Cease and Senga at the top. Then you're going, Quintana, and then you sign. Hey, even if argument's sake, you sign Hendricks, let's say, and you trade for a Dylan Cease, and the rotation goes Senga, Cease, Hendricks, Quintana, question marks. That's something. That's something you could throw out there and say, you know what? That's not an embarrassing rotation. It's not what it would be now, or was what we thought coming into the year with Scherzer and Verlander and Senga and everything that happened. So there's that part. There's a part of me that still believes that they'll make a play for Ohtani, and I'll dive into that part now. It's again, I don't know if Ohtani wants to come here. He has not said anything, but I think the thing you have to understand, if you're a Mets fan and you're going to say, and I've heard people on talk radio talk about this. I've heard people say, you're telling me you're not even going to talk to him if you're going to, I view this differently than others because I think you talk to him. That doesn't guarantee he's signing here. Now, if he stays with the Angels or he signs with the Giants or the Dodgers or the Mariners because he wants to stay out west, that's fine. That wouldn't upset me. You just have to have the conversation with him. But if he were to say sign with a team on the East Coast, Red Sox, Yankees, then I would say, Steve Cohen, where were you? What are you doing? You can't let him go there. But if he stays on the West Coast, particularly if he stays with the Angels or he goes to a team like the Mariners, I don't think you could kick yourself because you're going to take the $550 million, the $600 million, whatever it's going to be. And I'm going to pay not one guy for that, but I can pay 4, 5, 6 guys like that. And you know who the first 100-something million would go to? And that's why if you don't sign Shohei Ohtani, it goes to Pete Alonso, who needs an extension because he's up. His contract's up after next year. He's done with arbitration. He is a free agent after next season. Steve Cohen called him a great Met. You know, this is the quote he said yesterday. Quote, "We love Pete as a Met. He's an integral part of the Mets. Integral, sorry. Part of the Mets. He's still with us for another year. We hope things work out." Close quote. You can't hope. You can't hope. You need to make him a Met. Because Pete Alonso is the best homegrown Met since David Wright. He's already top 5 on the franchise. He's already top 5 on the franchise in home runs. He's hit 30 home runs every year he's been in the league, outside of maybe the 60-game season. He's the face of the franchise. Him and Francisco Lindor are the faces. And there will be backlash to Steve Cohen if Pete Alonso is not a Met long term. Now, if you make him an offer, argument's sake, 8 years, $220 million. He turns it down and he signs elsewhere because he doesn't want to be here. Then you know there's nothing wrong with that. But he's made it clear. Pete Alonso's made it clear he's wanted to be here. The way he's embraced the fan base, the way he has embraced being a Met. He is the unsung captain of this team. He's the Mets version of Aaron Judge. And I would argue he's been better than Judge. And I know people are going to take this the wrong way, so I'm going to say it like this. He hasn't spent as much time on the injured list as Judge. I understand he's only made the playoffs once in his career, but Judge has had a better team around him than Alonso has. Pete Alonso is the most important Met since David Wright, and you got to lock him up. And locking up Pete Alonso should be the Mets' #1 priority this offseason. Not Ohtani. Pete Alonso. You take care of your own instead of going outside of the box for it. And I love Shohei Ohtani. And if Shohei Ohtani would come here and sign for $300 million, $400 million, I don't care. I would do it in a heartbeat. But that's not my top priority. My top priority should be Pete Alonso. This team has an owner willing to spend the money. This team has an owner who cares about the fans. This team has an owner who cares about winning. I love Shohei Ohtani as much as the next guy. But this team needs a makeover. And if you look around here, here's how it should look next year. Pete Alonso gets his long-term deal. Second base is a toss-up right now. My gut, I would put Ronnie Mauricio at second base, rather. That needs to happen at some point here. No more Danny Mendick's, no more Jonathan Arouses. Give the fans what they want. Call up Ronnie Mauricio. He's second base. Lindor's at short, locked in. Beatty's at third. If Marte stays, Marte's in right field. Nimmo's in center field. You play Jeff McNeil in left. Francisco Alvarez behind the plate. Mark Vientos is the DH. If you want to bring in another guy to help Vientos at DH, go ahead. It just can't be Vogelbach. Then you go through the rotation. I told you, it's Senga, It's Quintana. Miguel and Peterson are auditioning the rest of this year. It's auditions for them to get into the rotation next year. I'd still like the Mets to sign two to three starters, maybe more. Bullpen, I would keep Brooks Raley. I would. Drew Smith needs a bounce back next year. He does. But then guys like Josh Hader, that doesn't interest me. Not because he's not good, because I got a guy at the back end named Edwin Diaz. If Liam Hendricks had interest in coming here, I would take him. He underwent Tommy John surgery either today or yesterday. So you're not going to bank on him. But if you sign Liam Hendricks to a 2-year contract, we might have something there in an eighth inning guy. Ralph Chapman doesn't interest me. Craig Kimbrell, no. If you wanted to bring back David Robertson, I'm fine with that. Jordan Hicks doesn't really intrigue me. Not because the arm's not good. He's had injury issues. Jose Alvarado, interesting name. Would have to see what the asking price is. Ottavino's got a player option. He's probably going to pick it up, so he's probably back. Blake Trinan used to intrigue me. Used to. Andrew Chafin, that's a name I wanted last year. If Peterson's on the rotation, you want Chafin and Raley as your two lefties, I'm cool with that. Mark Melanson, Matt Moore, not really. Michael former Matt could do it. That wouldn't be bad. Luis Garcia, Yimi Garcia, Chad Green, not really. Hector Neris, not really. Matt Barnes, no. Anthony Bass, no. Dylan Floro, interesting. You saw a lot of them with the Marlins. Daniel Hudson, Jose Leclerc, Alex Reyes, Ryan Stanek would be a great addition if he were to leave Houston. Hunter Strickland and Kirby Yates. And that's just from MLB.com. So the Mets have to figure this out. The bullpen, a couple of starters, a bench. But you're not going to know anything if you don't play the kids. So Alvarez has to play every day. Vientos has to play every day. Beatty has to play every day. And you have to call up Mauricio. No more Danny Mendix, Jonathan Arouses, DJ Stewarts. It has to be what you proved at the trade deadline was this is about the 2024. I get the 2025-26 Mets. I get it. But if Steve Cohen wants to field the team for the 2024 team, that won't be embarrassing. You have to focus on the kids here the rest of the year. That's what it has to be. So, and priority one this winter for Steve Cohen isn't even just fielding a competitive team. Priority one, Pete Alonso's long-term deal. It's not Ohtani. An interview with Ohtani would be great, but you can't even guarantee you're going to sign him. So, Alonso has to be your number one priority. Okay, so Tuesday was the trade deadline. Again, you can find that video, Sports Insanity Network YouTube page. We talked about Justin Verlander going to Houston. Tuesday night, Framber Valdez threw a no-hitter for the Houston Astros. The first one thrown by a left-handed pitcher in franchise history against the Cleveland Guardians. Now, let's have a little conversation about the Astros, who currently are a half game behind the Texas Rangers in the AL West They've won 3 in a row. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games, and I'm going to reiterate a lot of points. They're the best team in the American League. They might be the best team in baseball. I know the Braves are really good. I know the Rays are really good. I know the Orioles are really good. The Astros may have just pulled the trigger on something big. Verlander, Valdez, Christian Javier. Bullpen's been awesome for the most part. Lineup has been raking. They get Altuve and Alvarez back. Chas McCormick has had a really nice year. Kyle Tucker, who probably is the most underrated player in baseball at the moment. Bregman, they can rake. Oh, by the way, I didn't even mention Jeremy Pena, who won ALCS and World Series MVP last year. I didn't mention him. Can you believe I didn't mention him? This seems so good. And they just got better with the Verlander addition. So I know a lot of people like Texas, and they got Corey Seager back last night, and Max Scherzer's going to start for them today against the White Sox. I think Houston's the best team in the American League. I do. And I'm looking at Texas, and I'm saying you could have buried them a while ago when they had all the injuries and they were having some issues. No one buried them. And now that you didn't bury them, they're here. And they're getting hot when you expect them to get hot. And they're not fooling around. They're the best team in the American League. So when they're representing the AL in the World Series, don't be surprised. Don't. All right, so let's get into some of the big weekend series. You got some rubber games today. The Blue Jays are looking for a split against the Orioles in that 4-gamer. Diamondbacks, Giants, Reds, Cubs. The Cubs have put on an offensive onslaught on the Reds first couple of games of that series. Let's start with those Astros. They go to the Bronx to start a 4-gamer with the Yankees here tonight. First time they're seeing each other since the ALCS. The Yankees are coming off that losing 2 of 3 to the Rays. The Astros coming off of beating up the Guardians. And here's the thing, and not a lot of people are going to say this is probably a small thing. Garrett Cole pitched last night for the Yankees against the Rays. That means he's not pitching in this series against the Houston Astros. And I would argue this is a bigger series than the one against the Rays. And here's why. The Astros are the second wildcard team currently in the AL. They have a 2-game advantage over Toronto, who's 3.5 up on the Yankees. I get it. The Rays are the divisional opponent, but I think this is a bigger series. So instead of throwing Garrett Cole out there, tonight it will be Christian Javier against Clark Schmidt. Friday it will be Hunter Brown against Luis Severino, who needs a good start. He needs a good start, Severino, after what happened Sunday night to him. Nestor Cortez will return to the Yankees on Saturday against, according to ESPN, undecided. I'm going to presume that might be Verlander's debut. Saturday might be Verlander's debut. And Sunday will be Carlos Rodon against, again, undecided. So Saturday or Sunday will probably be Verlander. But that's the series in the Bronx. The two teams will see each other again to begin next month in Houston. Mariners Angels start a big 4-game set tonight. The Mariners are 3.5 out in the wild card. The Angels are 4 out. Listen, the Angels made all these moves. Grichuk and Crone, Giolito. They have to make the playoffs, the Angels. The Angels have to make the playoffs. Seattle, they don't have to, but they don't have to. They have that young pitching that if they can get some bats this winter, I really like Seattle. And listen, if they want a controllable bat, call the Mets. Maybe the Mets can make a deal with the Mariners for either Kirby or Logan Gilbert. I'm not going to say no to that. So that's a big one. The Braves will go to Chicago this weekend. Max Fried will return Friday. The Cubs, we talked about how hot they've been. And just to show you how hot the Cubs have been, they're 2.5 out in the wild card. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're probably better than that over a longer span. I mean, they've been red hot. Give the Cubs credit. They did put Marcus Stroman on the injured list, but Stroman struggled last month for a while. Blue Jays Red Sox is a big one in the AL East. Again, the Red Sox are 2.5 behind the Blue Jays for that third wild card spot. They play great ball. The Blue Jays, they put Bo Bichette on the IL, but they did acquire Paul DeJong from the Cardinals at the deadline. So that's a big series here at Fenway this weekend. Marlins Rangers is a big interleague series. The Marlins have scuffled. A nice win the other night against the Phillies. Looking to win that series today. And then Dodgers Padres. Look, the Padres stood pat. And if you want to even make the case that they bought at the deadline, you can make that case. They did. Rich Hill, G-Man Choi, Scott Barlow from the Royals. They bought, and they said, listen, we believe in this team, and we're going to go for it. And currently, they're 4 out of that wild card spot. So they need to win some games. They're playing a Dodger team who, in the past, has owned them, but they're getting them at home this weekend. So maybe they got something there. So Dodgers Padres is a huge series. All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Batter Up Podcast, part of the Sports Insanity Network, sponsored by Halpert's Cards and Collectibles. Follow the socials: Facebook, Sports Insanity Network, Twitter at SInsanityReal. Go to the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. I'll be back Sunday morning, another edition of the Batter Up Podcast. And until then, talk to you then. Everyone have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you Sunday morning, and namaste.